Ladies and gentlemen, do you like attacking chess? What about sacrifices, gambits, things of that nature? If that sounds like you, then this video is perfect for you. Today's video, I'm going to be discussing my favorite opening ever, the smith-morra gambit. Let's get into it. Okay, the smith-morra gambit. One of my favorite openings ever at this point, and it's my go-to whenever I see my opponent play the Sicilian. So I'll show you how it starts. We're going to play e4, they'll play c5, we'll play d4, and immediately, black's already got to make a decision on move 2. What do I do? Do I take? Do I defend? And really, black's got to take here. Let's say they try to defend it. We can just take here on c5, and let's say they take back. We take with the queen, and already white's got an advantage. Let's see what the engine says. Already +2, and that's because black's lost his castling right. So we're gonna get our pieces out really quick. We got the open d file. We're gonna get our pieces out. Long castle. It's just not good. So they really gotta take. They gotta take. So they'll take. We'll play c3. They'll play d takes c3, and then we'll take back with the knight. And so this is the beginning position that you'll have most of the time when you play the smith-morra if it's accepted. And here I'll show you the general setup that we want to get here, the general ideas, motifs. So most popular move here is knight c6. We're gonna play knight f3. They may play d6. We can go over that in a little bit. There's a couple traps with that involved as well, but they'll play e6 all the time. We're just going to play bishop c4, and that may look like the bishop's biting on granite, but trust me, later on this bishop can become a very powerful piece. This diagonal is not going to be closed for too long depending on the variation, and it's going to be exciting. So let's keep going. A couple different things they can do here. They may play something like, let's say a6. We just castle. They might play b5. We'll play bishop b3. They'll play bishop b7, trying to get their pieces out. And here, these are some of the patterns you want to remember as far as the setup. What we're looking for in a general smith-morra game. We want to get our queen here on e2, and the idea behind that is we really want to get this rook on this semi-open d file. Part of the advantage or the trade-off we get, the compensation that we get from giving up the pawn at the beginning of the game, is here we're going to have this semi-open d file, so big pressure, especially when the queen's still here on d8. So we really want to get our rook here to d1, and here they want to get their knight out. Knight f6, I'll look at it in a little bit, is now let's just say they play knight f6. This isn't the best thing in the world, because here, let's see what the engine wants. Engine wants e5, and that's what I thought I had just to confirm. We can play e5, and the knight has to go back. Let's just say they try to attack us again. We can just play h3, and the knight has to go back to h6, and we just take, and it's really bad. So really, the best move, the best thing they can do here, if they play knight f6 and we play e5, they just got to go back. That's the best move. It's so knight f6 is not really a concern of ours for now. Let's just actually I missed one possibility. Let's say here they play this. This is really not good. We can take, and it's gonna be hard for black to play this, because I mean, we already, we have the queen here. We're gonna get our rook out. This bishop has the open diagonal again, and the engine says that white's actually +3.5 here. And because eventually we're gonna play e6 and really just ram this pawn down black's throat. So yeah, black doesn't want to do that. Knight f6 is not really a good move here. So instead, most of the time they're going to play, if they know what they're doing, they're going to play knight g7.
And here, a couple different. I'll turn the engine off because I want to go back just on more popular moves. But generally, a theme that you can play in the smith-morra is bishop g5. A lot of times, if this knight comes in between the queen and everything on this diagonal, you want to try to pin it. It can allow for certain tactics to open up, and so generally, they're either going to play h6 or f6. And they may play f6 just to get out of the pin permanently. That's more popular. We just bring our bishop back. And at this point, a lot of times they'll bring their knight here. And then we bring our rook over to d1, as we discussed. Like I was saying, we want to get our queen here. We want to get our rook here. The dream setup is queen e2, rook d1, one rook on d1, one rook on c1. Take advantage of these open lines that we have. Here, let's see, a popular move is queen c7. We can get our rook ac1. And look at this pressure we got on this queen here. This is going to open up possibilities, certain possibilities such as, I want to see if this pops up on the database at all. I don't see knight d5, but I think it's possibly a move. We could play something like d5 in a second. Oh, it is black's move, that's why. My bad. That's another theme I was going to cover in a second that comes up in variations. So black's going to be very careful here. See what the best move is. See, white's already plus 1.3, 1.2. Definitely has an advantage. They want us to bring the black queen back to just get out of the pin here. But let's say they don't. It could be very disastrous. Here, immediately, this is what I was just talking about. The engine is wanting us to play knight d5. And you might wonder, at first, why we're just giving up a knight. What's the point, Davis? And the point is, let's say they take. We'll turn the engine back off. We take, and if you notice, this queen, since it's in line with the rook, this knight's pinned. So we're just going to win back this piece immediately, and we're going to have, not only that, we're going to have plenty of initiative as well. So here, they could long castle. Let's see what happens if they, I mean, look at these win rates here on the side. I mean, it's ridiculous here. These are positions that you're going to see often if you play the smith-morra game. They're going to get in positions like this. But let's say they bring the queen back. This is an 89% win rate for white. I mean, we can simply just play d6 was one option. We may just take here, but let's just say we play d6. I mean, I'm trying to remember variations. I mean, obviously we're attacking this bishop. They take. We just win the queen. You always gotta look at these alignments. So let's say they take. No game. There's no games in the database, surprisingly. But let's say they play something like this. We can immediately attack. You gotta be looking for tactics when you have these open lines. You're gonna have something like bishop a7, and the queen is lost. So yeah, that's one of the benefits of playing this opening is you're gonna get plenty of open lines and cool tactics like knight d5. Knight d5 is a key move you got to remember if you play the smith-morra. Few of the keys are to get your queen on e2, get your rook here, get your bishop on either f4 or e3, and then get your rooks on c1 and d1. And it makes things like knight d5 possible. And a lot of it is just because of this semi-open d-file that we got just from giving up the pawn. It creates these tactics. So yeah, that's a general, something that could happen if you play. And in a second, I'm going to go over the Siberian trap, which is something you got to be aware of if you play the smith-morra as white. Now that we got our setup going for the smith-morra, I'm going to show you a trap against white, actually, that everybody that plays a smith-morra needs to know. You got to know this because if black knows what they're doing, they may try this against you, and it can be deadly if you're not sure. what to do and you don't know what to do. I've actually lost to this before. I've beat people with it before. And if you don't know the patterns, it can be bad for white. You can just be completely losing if you're not careful. And it's called the Siberian Trap, and this is how it goes. So they'll play knight c6, general starting move. We can just play knight f3. They'll play e6. We'll play bishop c4, and then here there's a couple ways they can do it. The most common way to do the Siberian Trap, it's very common. If you see in the Lichess database, it's actually 101,000. It's been played 101,000 times. They might play queen c7 here, and here we just castle. We're just gonna castle, and here the key move for black, if they're trying to get this trap, is they're gonna play knight f6. Once you see this move with queen c7 and you see a knight f6, you need to have your alarm bells ringing a little bit. And if you get lazy and you do the typical smith-morra move, queen d2, you're gonna lose. Or you're not gonna lose, but I'll just show you. It's easier to show than explain necessarily. But let's say we play queen d2. We're just trying to get into our smith-morra kind of setup. They're gonna play this move, knight g4. And you might say, it's just a knight. They're threatening mate, but look, it's defended. Like, we're fine. And let's just get this knight out of here, right? This knight's annoying. It's in our space. It's all up in our territory. It's really annoying. So many people, and as you can see, h3 is actually the third most popular move, and it's immediately losing. And this is what's called the Siberian Trap. If we play h3, what they're gonna do, they have this move actually, knight d4, and all of a sudden, our queen is hit. This knight's hit, and they're still threatening mate, and so we don't have time to take the knight because this knight on d5 is going to take our queen. But that's actually, giving up the queen here is actually the best thing that white can do, because let's say we, move the queen somewhere, get out of the way. Black can just take on f3, and it's check. If we move out of the way, queen is h2 is checkmate. If we take, though, it's the same thing. It's basically unstoppable mate. So that's the Siberian Trap. I'll go over one more time. It's something every smith-morra player's got to know, because people will try it against you. They don't know how to play against it. They're trying to go for their trap. So that's the other line. Here, instead of a6, we got queen c7, castles, and then remember the move is knight f6. When they play knight f6, they're trying to go for this Siberian Trap, so we don't want to play queen d2 here, but I'll play it anyways just to repeat the line. They'll play this, and really at this point we're not dead yet. The move we don't want to play is h3. h3 is the huge blunder. So if we play h3, then they have knight d4, and we're white's busted. They're just done. And I've won several games this way, actually, as black, playing against the smith-morra gambit. Here's another way the Siberian Trap could go. Again, I keep playing the old lines that I had up earlier. Let's just start over. e4, c5, d4, c takes d4, c3, d takes c3, knight takes c3, knight c6, knight f3, e6, bishop c4, queen goes back to c7, we castle. I apologize. The tricky way to do it is to actually play knight f6 first. This is proven to be a little bit better, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but this is something I learned from Marc Esserman. I got his book called Morra and the Mayhem. I'm still working my way through, but he's an IM and he specializes in this opening, and he's said several videos talking about it, playing it, and this is what he says. This is slightly more testing than queen c7 as far as going for the Siberian trap. But we'll castle here anyways. They'll play queen c7. And here, instead of playing queen e2, one move we could try here is knight b5. Queen's got to go back. And once the queen goes back, funny enough, we're actually going to play this move e5. And here, we're hanging a pawn technically, but this is just what I learned from Marc's book. He'll take here, and there's a couple different things we can do. I'll show you one of the lines first. Takes, queen takes, and then we can play rook here. And then one of the most popular lines, because queen b8 it's the most popular, but it's depressing. If they're trying to be more testing, they're going to try to play queen c5. And here, believe it or not, the move is actually bishop f1. I apologize for the mail update. Bishop f1. And you might be a little bit surprised by this, but the queen is going to become a target here pretty soon. So here they might play a6, try to chase away this bishop. Here we can just play bishop b3. And I don't know where this queen's going. I don't know about you guys, but it seems kind of short of squares. We can go here, but that's a little bit awkward. You see, the third most popular move is actually a takes b5, surprising enough. But if you look at these win rates, I mean, it's just crazy. Queen c6 is really the most popular move, so we're just gonna play that. And here, we actually have a couple different moves. We can play rook c1, and we're just gonna get this fork. It's just terrible. Queen's gotta go somewhere. And here the engine or not even the engine, but people don't know what to do. They just take on b5. They might take on c1 with the queen. I mean, if they try to preserve their queen, I mean, we just have the fork. We win the queen. So that doesn't work. The blacks are really just busted here at this point. Their bishops still aren't out. This bishop's never getting out. We have this fork here. It's just really bad. So really, one of the better moves they could play here is just give up the queen. And here we might even have an intermezzo. No, but we just take the queen. They'll take back, and it's up to you to really convert this position. But this is one such variation that I learned from Marc's book. If they try to go for that Siberian trap type of lines. Okay, now I want to go over a couple of lines if the opponent plays d6. So we're gonna, play our opening setup again. And here they might go d6. I'm not gonna cover. The video is starting to run a little bit long. So if you guys are really interested in this and you want me to make another video, I can't talk. Want me to make another video on the smith-morra gambit and go more in depth in some of these lines, I can. I'm just gonna show you a couple of traps you should, or an idea you should know, especially when d6 is played here. We're just gonna play f3, at f3, and here it's funny. The most popular move is already a blunder. Here most popular move is knight f6, and immediately white is winning with e5. And here they take. The best move, actually, according to the engine, is, funny enough, is to move the knight back. But that's very rarely gonna be played against you. And then here we takes, and I mean, we're threatening this fork. King goes back to defend. We're gonna have knight b5, and it's like there's just too many threats. How do you defend this? One possible try is, knight d5. And then we can just simply go bishop c4 and chase the knight away. They might go a6 first, try to hit our knight. We can just take. I mean, this is just terrible. We just take on f7, and white's just winning. Another Another variation you might see very similar is instead of knight f6 right away, they might play knight c6. And I mean, this is even worse in some regards. I'll show you a couple crazy traps. Again, knight f6 is not the move. That's just one thing you have to remember in these d6 positions is knight f6 is generally, unless they prepared it more in advance, knight f6 is many times in these positions is a blunder. God, I'm struggling with this analysis board. Bishop c4, and here a lot of times you'll see people play knight f6, and here there's a few ways that black can go wrong. Here we're gonna play e5, and the first one I'm gonna show is let's say they take with a knight. They're already lost because we'll take back with our knight, and then they'll take back. And what do you notice here? We have this bishop lined up on the f7 square. Our queens are staring at each other. We can win this game with bishop takes f7. That's why you got to be doing your tactics, guys, your puzzles. Notice these things. The king is displaced. He obviously can't go here because of the queen. And he's the only defender of the queen, so he's got to take this, and we win the queen. We win the game. That's one way they could do it. So here we play e5. If they're gonna take, they gotta take with a pawn. And here we actually trade queens. So this is a dilemma for black, because if they take with the king, then they lose their castling rights. If they take with a knight, we win this pawn. So many times you'll see people take with the knight, but here it can go really badly very quickly for black. Here you would think that taking the pawn is the move, but actually here we play knight b5, and again we're threatening this fork. We're also hitting this pawn, and it's like, how do you defend? They may try to come up with you might think knight d7 is the move, or king d7, excuse me. And funny enough, this actually leads to a forced mate. This is a big blunder by black, because now we can play knight e5, knight takes e5, and look at this. Look at these knights working together. This knight is covering this square. This knight's covering this square. This knight's covering this square, and the king can't come to this square because this bishop has got him. So the only place you can go is king e8, and look at that. We have a fork, and not only a fork. If you'll notice, this is actually checkmate. The knights are just too powerful together. Checks the king. This knight's cutting off the king's getaway square. So yeah, that's one way that your opponents can go wrong. I'm not going to cover these lines too much in depth. I'm sure the video is running long, but just remember, if they're playing d6, play knight f3, and if they play an early knight f6, a lot of times you're going to have this move e5, which is going to win you the game a lot of times. Here, again, just to go over it again, do that. If they bring the other knight out first, we develop our bishop here, and we play e5 again. And again, I mean, it's really hard. You can't really take this, and if he does, he's got to be very careful. So yeah, the smith-morra is very venomous, and if you know what you're doing, there's lots of traps and tricks and things you can do. And speaking of venomous, I want to show you one of my favorite games I've ever seen. This really just shows the beauty of not only the smith-morra, but just chess in general. So now that I've given you the basics, I just want to show you some of the beauty that can come out of this opening. This is a game that was played by Marc Esserman versus, I'm not exactly sure how to say his name, but Vadim Martirosov in 2008. And this is one of the prettiest and dirtiest games that I've ever seen. And I'm going to play it out for you guys real quick, just so you can get an idea of the venom that can come with this opening. So we have our beginnings, you know, e4, c5, d4, c takes d4, c3, d takes c3, knight c3. He played e6 in this game, knight f3, a6, and you're going to see a certain defensive schema that black tries to come up with in order to defend, and it is shown in this game and also throughout his book. that I've been reading. It's called Mayhem and the Morra. I highly recommend it. Written by Marc Esserman. That's where I got this game from, actually. He's gonna show that this defense really isn't anything serious against the smith-morra. So we played bishop c4. They play d6, and then here Mark just castled. They played Vadim played b5 here. We played Mark plays bishop b6, or bishop b3, excuse me. And here, this is the beginning of the Chicago defense. So it's an idea where you're trying to defend this d file with the rook. And very interesting, but as you're gonna see, it can't really hold its own against the Morra. So we're gonna immediately attack it with our bishop. Go to bishop b3, and they're gonna play. And then Vadim plays rook d1, knight d4, and already white's better. I mean, this e6 pawn is already a big target. The rook coming here is blocked off the bishop's defense, so now we have some ideas of sacrificing on that square at some point in the future. Next, Vadim played knight f6, and then Mark just went for his throw with f4. He goes bishop b7, and the attack rages on. He just plays f5, and then Vadim plays e6 or e5, excuse me. And then here, this is the first big tactical shot of the game. Knight e6, which is awesome, and it's a sacrifice, but you'll see why. It's amazing what happens. Fireworks happen in this game. E6, and then the rook's got to move, and here, boom, bishop b6. We got the rook pinned on the queen. Here, Vadim desperately is trying to castle, get his pieces, get his king safe, and try to untangle his position. Here, he doesn't even take the rook. Mark plays rook ac1, putting more pressure on this pinned rook that can't move. You know, the queen is behind the rook. Vadim castles, and then Mark just takes here, and it seems like, oh, why would you give up this pin? But he has a reason for it, and you're about to see. So bishop takes c7, queen takes c7, and then knight d5. And here, the queen just goes back. It's got to get out of the line of this rook, and this square's covered, so he can't go there. Really, I mean, she's not gonna play queen a5. That just gives up the bishop. So really, the only move here is queen d8. And then here, Mark takes on d7. So takes, queen takes, and then the shot rook c7. And it's like, Davis, like, why can't you take here? And you remember this pawn? This is a very strong pawn. This bishop, you know how earlier in the video I was talking about how this bishop can come alive? What you're about to see. So here, the queen, really the queen's just got to take. And now we have a discover check with e7. So rook's hit, you know, king's in check. It's like, what do you do here? And so Vadim tried his best. He blocked the check with d5, and here Mark actually played this game very quickly because he had the same game in 2000, but instead he played queen here first, and this actually doesn't work, and I'll show you in a second why. He got a little too eager, but here the move is bishop takes d5. Again, another check, and the knight cannot take because, let's say knight takes, rook takes is checkmate. That pawn is just too strong. So bishop's got to take, queen takes. Technically a queen sacrifice again, but the knight can't take again. So the rook just has to block here. Rook f7, and here we just simply have queen d8, and you're gonna lose your queen anyways if you try to move away. Obviously, again, this is not a move because this is just mate. So queen's got to take, and we just promote, and white is just completely winning here. And Mark went on to win this game. Just absolutely beautiful, really. And I think just one of my favorite games that I mean, I'm still reading the book and I'm still discovering this opening, but it's so pretty, and it just shows you some of the tactics you can that are available when you play this opening. It's just freaking awesome. So yeah. Okay, guys, so to end the video, I just want to recap everything we've talked about just so you can have some takeaways from this video and be able to start playing it from your games. Just the things, general things to remember again. E4, C5, D4, C takes D4, C3, D takes C3, Knight takes C3. And remember the concepts we talked about, guys. Knight C6. We want to get our queen on here and our rook here. So we're going to try to quickly castle. So we play Knight F3, E6, Bishop C4. If they play A6, just castle. Remember the Siberian trap again. Could be very careful in some lines. But let me get back to it. So give something like this castle. Remember they might play b5. We'll bring our bishop back, and then bishop b7. Remember, get our queen to e2. Here, if they ever bring their knight out, we know what to do. We want to pin it. Again, something like this. Bring our bishop. Just bring our bishop back. They might play a knight g6. Get our rook to d1, and then again we want to get our rooks on the d1 square and the a1 square, or the c1 square, excuse me. Yeah, line this up, and remember, in some of these positions, knight d5 is a move, so keep that in your the back of your mind. Knight d5 is one. Is one motif. Getting the queen on e2 and the rook on d1 is a motif that we want to remember. And then to one last time look at the d6 lines. Big concept to remember is e5. If they play knight f6 too early or at all, remember we have this, and this. So yeah, obviously we just went over that, but remember, when you're playing the smith-morra, you want to get your queen on d2, rook on e1, quickly castle, quickly develop. Remember the knight d5 move in certain positions. Be tactically aware against an early d6 and early knight f6. Remember that move e5 is very important. And remember the Siberian trap. Remember, I'll play that. The last thing I recap. Remember, excuse me. You know, e6, knight f3, for instance. Something like this. You want to be careful about playing queen e2. After they play here, I mean, it's okay, but remember, if they play queen c7, and in fact we want to play a knight b5 here, we want to be careful about once they get their knight to f6, because they got ideas of checkmating us once we castle and everything. So just be aware of that. So e5 against d6 and knight f6. Remember that idea. Queen e2, rook d1. And knight d5 is another idea. So just remember those ideas. Just keep practicing, play it, and let me know how it goes for you guys. Just want to thank you guys for watching, and go kick some ass. Peace.